Kaz Grala is the winner, the youngest driver to win at Daytona in NASCAR National Touring Series history.
Joey Stone just picked up his first career win. Holy cow, what a finish.
And we are back with a brand new episode of All Clear, and this time it is time to recap the brand new Super Speedway of Atlanta Motor Speedway. Many question marks going into this weekend, and boy, we have lots to talk about. But one thing we're really excited about here is the guest we have with us for this episode, who was in the Cup Series race and saw all the action from the driver's seat. It is none other than driver of the number 31 for Colleague Racing, Justin Haley. Justin, great to have you here. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Happy to be here and give my input on the next gen car, Atlanta, and everything to come.
Absolutely, man. Well, we're really excited to have you here, and we're loving the background, man. We're loving the sheet metal you got back here. A little off topic here, but any particular backstory with the sheet metal behind you?
Oh, Rich. No, this one is the 99 is off one of my super late models, and then the one above it is one of my dirt buddies. Sheet metal that I pried away from one night when he wrecked. So this is down to my shed at my house, and I plan on having all kinds of sheet metal up in here. So yeah, nothing crazy.
I love it. Hey, sheet metal always has a nice story behind it and everything. Kaz, we need to get some sheet metal in your background too.
I know. So people may not know this, but Justin has an iRacing league every week, and I race in it, and a couple of our friends race in it. One of them being the owner of that number 80 door. And if you knew him on iRacing, you would not be surprised that he's got some torn up door sheet metal. He's usually out there banging doors and throwing fenders for last place every Monday night. So we definitely have some fun with old Rich Dawson.
Love seeing that. I love seeing how people can get close through iRacing and all that stuff and still have those connections away from the simulator too, which is awesome. But Justin, we brought you here obviously, and thank you again for being on here. It's awesome to kind of talk about Atlanta Motor Speedway now, or what people are now calling it, Atlanta Super Speedway. We don't know if the name will stick. We'll see what happens when we come back in July and whatnot. But last week when we had Jesse Punch on, we were really starting to think what is going to happen at this track. And I know you guys didn't really know what was going to happen either. You know, we weren't going to know until we got to the track and got into those practice sessions and whatnot. And right from the bat, we saw that this was a plate race right from the get-go and whatnot. So kind of just jumping right into it here, you know, what were your thoughts heading into that first practice session, and how was it handling, and like what were those initial reactions when you got on the track with the rest of the field?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I didn't get any simulator time for Atlanta. I was just kind of going into it and had the open mindset. Obviously, I went over to the Xfinity guys with Colleague and, picked Daniel's brain and picked AJ's brain and Landon, and got some info from Noah, and they were all like, man, it's wide open. And like, as a driver, you ask another driver and they're like, oh yeah, it's wide open. You always have like a little thought, in the back of your brain, like, is it really wide open? So, it became very clear to me early in practice that it was wide open, but there was that moment where we were like, is it going to be easy wide open like Daytona and Talladega, or is it going to be like a wide open where it's like a mile and a half where, you're definitely on edge and it's a scary type deal. But no, in practice, we had a plan that we were just going to go out there with the two Colleague cars and do a little drafting. And I mean, they handled great. I had as much grip as I wanted. It turned the corner, wasn't bottoming out or anything, and just held it to the floor, made a few changes and got in the pack. And very, very soon we figured out it was going to be Speedway style race. And then you watch the truck race and trucks are supposed to have a little bit more drag, less horsepower, and they were single file running the top against the wall. And immediately I'm like, well, why are they against the wall? Like, that doesn't make sense compared to what I just felt. And then the Xfinity cars were like wide open against the fence. And I'm like, well, like, is this Darlington now? And I was just so confused watching both the other series. And then you get to our package and it was just so much different. It's got so much more drag and less horsepower. So yeah, I mean, the way it raced, it was definitely almost like mind numbing. Like, it took so much mental capacity around that track that it just took everything out of you. And I feel like at the other two speedways we go to, you have a bigger track. You got more time to think about it. Things are, playing out a little bit slower. That didn't happen here. It was a lot for the spotters, the drivers, and tell you, it wore me out.
Well, let me jump in and kind of ease your mind on why those races look different, because I can tell you exactly why. So all three series this weekend ran the Super Speedway engine package with the restrictor plate. However, the Cup Series was the only series that ran a Super Speedway aero package. So the trucks and the Xfinity cars had their 1.5 mile short spoilers, much less drag, much less drag, much less downforce. So I was skeptical going into the weekend as to how those two races would look, because I kind of figured they would look exactly how they looked, which I don't know. I was not crazy about this reconfiguration of the track going into it. And I definitely wasn't crazy about it after seeing the truck and Xfinity races. I thought same thing as you. It just looked like they single filed out. They were all protecting the top. Nobody could really make a move for a lot of the race. Anybody that would jump down low to try to make something happen would immediately see themselves at the tail end of the line, and nobody would jump with them. So I didn't love the way that all played out, but I will say the Cup race with that package running a full-blown super speedway style car did seem to create some excitement, which we'll get into a little bit more, whether that's good excitement or bad excitement, but it definitely was excitement. But yeah, I think in the future, if I were NASCAR, I would probably have each of the series go to the track with the super speedway style aero package. It just seemed to work a little bit better, but I do wonder how much of that decision of taking two different packages was NASCAR trying to see, well, what does actually work here? What's going to put on the better race? Because they probably didn't know expect this weekend any more than we all did. So I guess they probably got their answer there. I'm going to assume they would agree and say that the Cup race was a more exciting race. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them bring that aero package in the future.
Yeah, I like your point that you made right there about how this weekend was, to me, this was like a test weekend for NASCAR to see what this reconfiguration and what the increased banking was going to do. The Cup Series you said they had the Super Speedway package, correct?
Yeah.
And then the Xfinity and trucks ran their normal package, but with the, what did you say about their packages again? Was it any different?
So they ran what they would normally run on a 1.5 miles.
Okay.
They would run at Daytona, Talladega. However, they had a restrictor plate. So the engine package was for a super speedway for all the series.
Okay.
But the aero package was only super speedway for Cup.
Okay. Yeah, because you mentioned that now, and there was definitely a big difference between those two series and the Cup Series. We saw in the Cup Series how the bottom lane tend to work better than the Xfinity and the truck series. And I was really worried about that heading into Sunday when I saw the truck and the Xfinity race. There were some really good cars in that field and trucks that really couldn't get up there because of the protection of that middle lane. But what we saw in the Cup Series, though, we saw a few guys like Justin, you were one of them. You got up there and you led a lap or two and drove your car up to the front. But you could even, I think, and you could talk about this, is protecting the lead there was really important, because the bottom still was a bit of a struggle point to kind of keep that momentum. You really had to have at least 5 or 6 cars go with you to make a run. And even if it stalled out, you lost all that momentum. Tell me what it was like, having to fight what lane you wanted to go to and making sure you had that help to go up there.
Oh, obviously, like the top lane was dominant for majority of the day, and it was a safe place to be, but all of us want to go to the front at some point. And I think for the teams, it was a big balance of, are we going to bring a completely aeroed car for like a speedway, or are we going to put a little more downforce into it with splitter angles and stuff like that to be able to race like a 1.5 miles? And I think early on in the day, a lot of the Stewart-Haas cars from the driver's seat were really struggling. A lot of cars were free. And I assume those are the guys who brought more of a speedway style car to the race. And then we had a really draggy downforce style car, and it seemed that it handled good all day. I could put it anywhere I wanted to, and I could drive to the front as long as it allowed me to. Now, you kind of get stuck in one of those lanes. It was pretty narrow, the racing surface itself. So you kind of had to be in a good position. But yeah, I mean, throughout the day, you could definitely move around in the bottom lane. You could get good shoves. You could go tandem. I know me and Tyler Reddick got tandem for a little bit, and he pushed me to the lead. And then, once you get to the lead, well, do you leave the guy, hanging that just pushed you to the lead and go up and block the top, which I did. And probably in hindsight was the wrong decision, but you're always just trying to balance that, because the bottom definitely wasn't preferred, but it was good enough to get the job done.
Yeah, I was going to say too, I noticed how some cars handled the bottom better than others. I noticed a few names. Tyler was really fast on the bottom. There was at points in the track in 3 and 4 where he would pass 3 cars on the inside in 3 and 4. It looked like he was able to stick on the throttle more down there. Chase Elliott looked pretty good on the bottom as well. You handled the bottom really well. It just seemed like in general, a lot of the Chevys ran the bottom very, very well. Meanwhile, some camps like Stewart Haas, et cetera, kind of struggled on the inside, trying to get that momentum going and whatnot. And one thing too about from this race we saw was there was a little bit of a tire issue with cars up in the lead. It seemed as though when they were in clean air, from a few of the radio communications I heard from some of our drivers, was that it seemed as though in that clean air, you're having to fight the car more to get that overall turn, unlike in the dirty air where that tire's not being used as much. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit of how or where that tire issue came from for some of the leaders?
Yeah, I don't think any of us quite know yet. Through the meetings that I've had, it seems that low regular tire pressure or an over camber situation, it was more of a team at fault than a Goodyear issue. So that's refreshing to see that obviously there was 0 tire wear all day. So that's kind of where it gets to, well, is it the tire or is it a mechanical issue where we're overworking the tire? And with no fall off and no really issues. I did have a right rear go down at one point myself, but it was because we had a piece of debris in the tire. And that was the cause and effect of that. So, no, I think majority of the time, I think it was a coincidence that it was the car that was leading, and maybe that, you're going just that little bit much faster when you're in the lead and getting shoved more than when you're in the back and just kind of riding around and taking care of your stuff. Just that little bit extra load and over cambered or low tire pressure. It was just kind of like the perfect balance where it didn't react well.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched up on that with the whole tire issue there, that it was a coincidence, because a lot of people were thinking, man, do you not want to be the leader in this situation right now? Because, I mean, you think at a play track, you want to be the leader because you control your own destiny there when you're out front. But is it really the case when you have a right rear tire going down? So I'm glad you at least are telling us that for the most part, it was just a coincidence there. But hopefully that issue can be easily resolved through the teams and whatnot. But still talking about Atlanta Motor Speedway here again with Justin Haley here, who I'm really thankful for being here with us today. Still talking about this race a little bit. We noticed that the drivers really didn't seem to have a problem getting aggressive, and with a new reconfiguration, a new pavement, et cetera. We tend to see the truck series, a lot of guys were being super protective there. The Xfinity series, the aggression picked up a little bit, but again, with these cup cars in the next gen era, I know equipment necessarily isn't there at the moment to have plenty of backup cars ready to go. And you mentioned earlier how the plan was to kind of get 2 cars out there, do a little drafting and kind of be there at the end and whatnot. Were you surprised of the aggression and the chaos we saw? Did you expect a more cleaner race, or was this about right where you think it was going to be?
Listen, I don't think any of us knew what we were getting ourselves into at the beginning of the weekend. And neither of our cars or haulers had backup cars. It was just what we had was what we had. I think we had a spare nose laying up there. But yeah, we didn't bring backup cars. So it kind of was what it was. And with practice, again, jumping back to that tire issue, we don't really have enough practice time to figure out if there's those issues. So we just go straight into the race, and it's just kind of everyone's best guess. So aggressiveness level, I thought it was going to single file out a little bit more than it did in the cup race, just because of how long the race was. I mean, I commented in the car, I'm like, man, this is such a long race. And it's the same 500-mile race Atlanta always has been. And I've raced there twice in the past with a cup car. And I didn't feel like it was quite that long. So just like I said, the physical ability of that race, I'll tell you, before I even wrecked, I was sore just driving around because the radius of the corner is so much tighter than a Daytona or a Talladega that the extra load it put on your body throughout 500 miles was something I've never experienced before. I felt like my stomach was going out the right side of the car at some points. And honestly, I think that's probably some of the highest G forces we've ever pulled with these wider tires, the drag. I mean, we were wide open all the way around the track, and it was all it had. So definitely physically took a lot out of us. And there was a point in the race where, I thought we were going to single file out, but it just never happened. I mean, it just never did. And then you're in the car. In my position, I had some good runs to the front, and then things are starting to get aggressive. So, do you try to race up there, or do you gamble and lay back and hope they all wreck? And that's just as a driver, you never know what the right decision is, because whatever decision you make is 100% wrong, right? It's wrong every time. So for me, with the caution with 15 to go or whenever it was, I was like, all right, I'll lay back. Surely they're going to wreck again. Then they didn't wreck again. So fortunately enough, the last lap, I had a good amount of momentum and did something with it and things like that. But I think another thing that was interesting in the truck and Xfinity field was the choose cone. I mean, there'd be 9 guys on the top, and then the 10th guy would be on the bottom. And I think in the Cup Series, the guys are more aggressive and can make things happen. And with our package, it was more split. But the trucks and Xfinity guys, I mean, it was 10-1 on who would take the bottom. And that's not Atlanta. It used to be the opposite way. You used to not be able to take the top because of the front stretch. So just crazy how much things can flip flop just with the reconfiguration.
I mean,
and on that same point there, Joey, on the aggression, here's what I found really interesting. So I've been in 4 super speedway races and Cup before, and I've kind of gotten to see the lay of the land. You've got half the guys that take the approach of, we're going to hang back, we're going to be conservative so that we're able to finish the race. That's kind of the mentality you go with if you want to get a good finish, because your highest likelihood of getting a good finish is staying out of trouble. However, the other half of the guys go race hard the whole race and try to fight up front. And that's the mentality of winning the race. If you look at it, most restrictor plate races in the Cup Series are not won by guys that were conservative all day. You kind of have to race up front and have that track position to be able to win the race, but you can go get a really good finish by staying out of trouble. So those are kind of the 2 different mindsets you see. And so therefore, say in stage 1 or stage 2 in the pack, you see about half the guys racing hard. The other half are either strung out single file or being careful at the back of the pack, or maybe even formed a sub pack behind the full pack just to stay away from the chaos. Well, I heard a couple of the Cup drivers say in press conferences before the race this weekend that they were expecting this to race like a super speedway race, but without the direct. That was interesting. And it seems like everybody, in fact, did feel that was true, because if you looked at that race, nobody really played it safe. Everybody raced all day. There was nobody hanging out in a pack way behind. For the most part, everybody was kind of a part of that lead draft, even if they were on the back of it. They were still in that pack. So clearly, guys didn't expect it to be as wild as it was. And then what did we see? They said on the broadcast, more than 30 of the 37 cars that were in the race were involved in an incident at some point in the day. I think it was like 6 or 7 out of the top 10 finishers were involved in an incident at some point in the day. I find that interesting, because if you take, the 36, 37 best drivers in the country, best stock car drivers in the world, and you put them into a situation where almost all of them wreck, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about the legitimacy of that race. And I know NASCAR was trying to change things up and try something, experiment with this new track layout. And while I think it was exciting for the fans because it was chaos, I don't know how good I feel about there being a race where, basically everybody in the race is going to be caught up in an incident. I feel like that takes away a little bit from the legitimacy of what the drivers are supposed to be doing out there. Because, it turns into a bit of like a circus when you've got guys saying like, yeah, we're going to start this race today and we're going to get wrecked. So we're just going to go out and race there until we get wrecked. I don't know if I love that for our sport, but what I do like is that Atlanta was different. And I think it will be good to have that track on the schedule. What I personally, as a race fan and a driver, would not want to see is for them to go take half of the other tracks and do this same thing to it. I think that too much of a good thing is a bad thing. And like I said, I'm not even convinced on whether I would call this weekend a good thing, but it was a different thing. And I like different. I think that's good for our sport. So I'll take it, but leave Homestead old and worn out. That's so much fun. Leave Arlington old and worn out. I like to see these tracks old and worn out because, all right, you may not be in a pack. I guess if you're a fan, you're not going to get to see as many lead changes. The stats on the race and on the passes may be lower. But if you go to Homestead or you go to Darlington and you sit in the grandstands, I can promise you that you're watching the guy leading because he is driving his butt off and doing a heck of a job and doing something truly incredible in a race car. And you're getting to see that. And that's a lot of skill. That's a very, very difficult talent to have. So I think we need to make sure that we keep our gems of tracks what they are and maybe take this Atlanta thing and be happy with what it is now, but isolate it.
See, I like your point, and I agree with most of it, but I have to disagree with you on one thing, though. I love what you said about keeping the gems. I agree. Don't touch Homestead Miami Speedway. Don't touch Darlington. For the love of anything, don't touch Bristol. Throw some dirt on it during the spring, bring it back in the fall to what we all know and love, and don't touch it anymore. Keep those gems.
Club.
And Auto Club. Like, I think after this last race, we can all agree. I don't want to see a short track Auto Club. I want to see the original Auto Club track because that track is amazing to see. But one thing you mentioned about the excitement and being someone who was in the grandstands for the entire weekend, I have never seen a Allmendinger Speedway packed like that since maybe the mid 2000s, back during the Johnson Edwards battle or the COT days. Being someone who's been to this track his whole life since 2001, since I was a little kid, I've never seen Atlanta that excited and for a race in a very, very long time. I'll admit this. I'm going to admit this. Okay. So for the past 10 years, Atlanta hasn't sold out a race, maybe even longer than that. Me, my girlfriend, and her father, we bought tickets the day of, but we told ourselves, they're not going to sell out. It's okay. Atlanta hasn't sold out in years. We'll buy our tickets. We call and look up, and the only things they have available is the Upper Johnson for $110 a ticket. Everything else was sold out. The infield, everything, it was sold out for the first time in years at Allmendinger Speedway. Now, I agree with you. The racing we saw this week was different. It's not what we're used to. I love my old configuration type racing, saving those tires, the best drivers out on top, 3, 4 wide, multiple groove racing, and off throttle time. It's amazing. That's what racing is all about. But at the same time, you have to fill in those seats and you have to fill in those grandstands in order to keep these venues and these tracks to come back on the circuit. Atlanta is such a historical track with so much history. And when you see these grandstands like that, it's really, really sad. So Atlanta and SMI took a chance and did this reconfiguration to see what is going to happen. And when these drivers started saying on Twitter what this race is going to be like and what to expect, those tickets sold like wildfire. And the entire grandstand, the parking lot was full. I haven't seen the parking lot that full since the mid 2000s, since before the COT days. And I think that's a huge victory for Allmendinger Speedway and SMI. And I know the racing wasn't 100% what we all want. I mean, it is another plate race on the schedule now. Now we have Daytona, Talladega, and now Atlanta Dega is what people are calling it, but I think it still puts people into the seats. It gets people excited because we see the whole pack together. And I put a tweet out too about this as well. I love my old racing. I'm not one of those fans who's all about the pack racing and all this stuff. I love my old style racing. For goodness sakes, I was a Jeff Gordon fan. Of course, I know what old racing is all about. I saw it all the entire time. But when you see the track sell out like this, and you see the excitement, the thrill, the drama is your driver going to make it to the finish? Are they going to have a clean car? Are they going to have a fight for a chance to win this race? Because we know these drivers take a risk. So like Justin takes a risk every week in that car. Is the car going to come home clean, or is he going to get caught up into an accident? And I think Justin can vouch. He thought that going into this week, I'm either going to wreck or I'm going to somehow make it to the finish and either win this race or get a good finish or do both at the same time, which he did do. He did both.
Yeah.
He did both.
Like, I don't think you're ever going to please anyone, right? You're not going to do that. And for me, is this what we wanted the 550 package to be? I don't know. Like, was this the goal of the Drag Duck 550 package for that many years? Was it this kind of racing? Did we accomplish it? I don't know. But for me, it was different. It was exciting. I would love to see this package at Michigan. That's just me. I wouldn't mind them just, hey, this is your Michigan package. We don't need an Auto Club, obviously. But Michigan, I think, is one of those tracks where it would probably be pretty good. Maybe the All-Star race, I don't know. It makes it a little bit more fair for the All-Star race, and that's it. I think Michigan deserves it, and I think maybe the All-Star race, maybe not my call, not anywhere close. I do think for the grandstands, I think we're pretty close to a sellout, which is unbelievable. Our TV ratings were the best of anything, and that's awesome for the growth of the sport. Being a part of it, having all those, people in the infield and in the stands, is really cool. And also something that you talked about way earlier about, 30 to 36 cars being in incidents. I know Larson and Ross had massive damage. They threw on some tape on their cars, and the composite body did what it has in the Xfinity series for years.
Right to the front again.
Ross went maybe it was faster. I think Larson was faster with damage at times. I really do. So I think it's all a bunch of positives. I think, there's a factor where you can't have too much of it because as a driver, I think it's kind of fun to do different stuff every weekend, right? Like we're going to a dirt race where we got a lot of horsepower. We got no horsepower. We got super studios, we got short tracks. I think the diversity of tracks that we've come to is about the best we've ever seen. And as a driver, going into this weekend, we didn't know what to expect. And I think that factor of not knowing is maybe what sold all the tickets, maybe not. But I think it's definitely something to work off of. And I think there's a lot of positives. But, as a driver, I mean, the next gen cars at first, we'll all admit it, they were not the best things to drive. The first test we all did, we were like, man, these things are terrible. But as engineers and NASCAR and everyone's worked on them, these cars are the most fun, most gripped up cars to drive, but yet they still are so hard to hang on to. So the limit between it's got a lot of grip and you're wrecked is so fine. And I think that's intriguing because once you find the limit, you're already over it. And just kind of like what Noah Gragson did, right? He was finding the limit and then all of a sudden it snaps and it's gone and your day's done. So it really challenges you as a driver with the different package and things like that.
Yeah. I like what you mentioned too about, understanding how, what's going to be happening here with these cars and the damage and how some of these guys were faster with damage. I said one point of the race, Kyle Larson nearly got his whole nose cleaned off in a wreck. And this man's up here battling for the lead at one point and then got caught up in another wreck, unfortunately. So that's one thing I applaud NASCAR for is these composite bodies on these cars. We're seeing cars now that are involved in incidents that aren't their fault. That's part of being a driver, though. You're going to be involved in incidents that aren't your fault. And you want to keep continuing because you feel like, you kind of were, you kind of got the wrong end of the stick there. But we saw guys like Larson. We saw Chastain, who had an issue that wasn't his fault at all, get right back up to the front with these composite bodies. And I think NASCAR deserves a round of applause for that one. They did an incredible job with that. And I think we've seen with NASCAR's willingness to get this car better for all you guys, we're seeing really good racing for the most part throughout this entire season. Again, Atlanta Motor Speedway with this new configuration and what we just saw, it's definitely new. It's something brand new here. And I'm sure NASCAR isn't 100% satisfied with it. I'm sure we may see a little bit of a tweak to the package for the July race coming up. So hopefully that will happen as well. But I'll kind of I'll ask you this, Kaz, when it comes to, I guess, composite bodies, you've ran Xfinity series and, and you've ran pretty much everything. Justin, you ran everything as well. You know, are you? I guess the question I'll ask you about the composite bodies and whatnot is, does it give you more willingness to be aggressive when you get into that car, knowing that you have a composite body, that you know, hey, I can take some chances with this, I can get into the wall a little bit, everything's going to be a-okay compared to previous years?
Yeah, I think so. Especially from the top, like Auto Club. If you're up there ripping the boards, you know, like, all right, if I step over the line and I scuff the wall a little bit, oh, that's gonna kill my lap. I'm gonna lose a few tenths. Not, oh, that's gonna kill my race. You know, the cup cars, the way they used to be with the metal bodies, you'd see somebody get into the fence and just scuff it a little bit, and they're lap and a half down now, changing a tire under green flag. Completely killed their day. You didn't get that as much in Xfinity, so. I do like the composite body. I like that the direction NASCAR is moving with that. I think that that's good. You know, you can end up with some guys trading paint a little bit down the straightaway, maybe scuff the wall a little bit, and you can get away with it without it killing your day, without it killing the speed in your car or cutting a tire. I think that that's a good thing. Now, it certainly doesn't take that risk away. I got shipped into the wall by another driver at Auto Club and weeks ago, and did snag the wall hard enough because that contact that it cut the tire. And then of course, if you're side by side, you're banging doors with somebody else, and their splitter catches your tire or their exhaust catches your tire. We've seen both of those happen plenty often. Yeah, it'll still cut your tire. So it certainly doesn't eliminate our risks, but I think it helps minimize them a little bit and be able to help more drivers continue on without their day ruined.
And I guess I'll ask you, Justin, about that too. You know, considering you were one who was just in the Atlanta race with that next gen car composite body, how does it make you feel as a driver going into that race, knowing that you have a car that can take a few bruises and scratches? And does it up the ante a bit for you?
Well, it kind of like y'all mentioned earlier, I went into the Atlanta race like, hey, I'm going to get a lot of TV time. That's my goal. If I wreck, I wreck. Oh, well, but I'm going to be going for it. I'm not going to go back and hang out. That's not my attitude. I'm here to win the race, and I'm going to go up there. I knew I had a fast car after practice. So I was like, well, what do we got to lose, right? If we make it through all the carnage, we make it through it. And we almost did. We were the carnage there out of 4, but yeah, just knowing, you know, I think with the older style cup car, there's a lot of times at short tracks, especially Martinsville, where if you're on the top of someone, they could very easily cut your left rear tire down with their splitter. I mean, it was almost instantaneously. And we don't really have those splitters on the cup cars anymore. It's, you know, it's kind of a rounded, there's not as many sharp edges on our bodies. So, you know, I think for me, a lot of that factor is gone. I don't think there's a disadvantage in a composite body, right? It's easier turnaround time for the crews. If we knock a door or fender off it, they can just take a few pop rivets out and put a new one on. I mean, I know it's a little bit more than that, but you're not sculpting sheet metal into, you know, a shape that takes 9 tools at the fab shop to make. You know, for us, I bounced off a lot of walls this year, but at Phoenix, I got loose, hit the wall out of the 2, and there was no damage. I mean, it was a pretty good hit and there was no damage. So, yeah, I mean, I think for the fans, you know, you go to the truck race, right? They still have sheet metal bodies. Lap 1, Matt DiBenedetto pancakes a thing on the fence. Day's done. I mean, the thing cut down both tires. It completely messed up the whole truck. And I think you saw a lot of guys do that Sunday and Saturday night in the Xfinity race. And, you know, and Noah Gragson, I mean, he hit the wall a ton in the Xfinity car. I mean, I thought his day was done. He was racing up there for the win towards the end of the race. I mean, he went laps down, green flag pit stop, and it was all okay. So, yeah, I mean, it's just cool to see that rally. As a fan, I was on the pit box for the Xfinity race, and having Noah as a teammate, I'm like, man, he's done. Like, both right side tires are cut down. I mean, he knocked the heck out of the wall, and then he's on the lead lap racing with our guys for the win. So I think that's cool as a fan to see that rally.
And we're speaking of cut tires. That reminds me, we had a lot of cut tires at Atlanta, not from bodies. That was from something else, like we mentioned. But the main part of that I find interesting is the fact that it was all the leaders and it was all Chevys. And then Joey, you also mentioned you saw a lot of the Chevys were strong on the bottom more so than the other manufacturers. So my observation here is Chevy so far with this next gen program has been working together and communicating between its teams better than the other manufacturers. That's kind of what I've picked up on through the first portion of this season. I feel like the Toyotas are definitely lagging a bit behind. And it may be because there's fewer numbers of them than the others. It may be taking longer for them to collect data and be able to find how to get better. But even the Fords are definitely trailing behind the Chevys. So Justin, do you feel like the Chevy camp has a different communication and a different atmosphere than what you've seen in the past before these next gen cars?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Chevy camp, you kind of have two groups, right? You have like the Hendrick Trackhouse Spire group, and then you got the RCR, GMS Petty colleague group, and I'm sure I'm missing someone in there, but yeah, we all are kind of working together, pulling in the same direction, obviously. And I think the Chevys were kind of the first ones to start working together heavily at the speedways themselves. I mean, we didn't have any speedway conversations like we normally would, but maybe will we in July? It's I don't know. I mean, so I think that's interesting. I think the other thing that's interesting is at LA, we all had to cut the fangs out of our hoods. All the Chevys did because we were overheating. We haven't had any overheating issues since then, but some of the Ford and Toyota guys have, and it just kind of is track to track who has a problem and who doesn't have a problem, and just trying to figure that all out. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say anyone really has an advantage. I mean, obviously Hendrick has won and Penske has won, so I don't think there's been a Toyota yet in victory lane. I could be completely wrong, but
don't think so. Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, I'm sure they're moments away. So I mean, it's just part of the learning curve, and is anyone ahead of anyone any week? I mean, obviously we all have our own arguments, and we think that these guys are ahead, or they think we're ahead, or we can go back and forth all day. But I think NASCAR does a great job at leveling the playing field. I think they took a little bit away from the Fords early in the season, so NASCAR is always on top of it, and I feel like they have a pretty good hold on where we all sit. It's just there's a lot of mechanical adjustments under these cars. It's not even just body. I mean, everyone has the same mechanical adjustments. I mean, there's millions of options and just how I want the steering to feel. I mean, every week we have a different steering configuration, just trying to get it to what I want or what AJ wants or whoever wants. And, millions of shock options. I mean, it's so different on what we change that I almost don't even want to ask, because, I feel like I knew a good bit about Xfinity being in it for 3 or 4 years, and I could pretty much tell you what was going to be on the car any weekend. I mean, I'm getting in the car now, and it is what it is, because they're so sophisticated and the adjustments are so, and just with the underbody and the diffuser, I mean, you can raise the back of the car, which you would think would put drag into it, putting the spoiler up, but it actually takes drag out because the diffuser has less. So it's almost backwards and it's confusing. So, as a driver, it's just kind of like we're getting and going.
Yeah, I like what you meant there about the about all those amazing things and whatnot. But I want to ask you this, and you talked about how you were in the Xfinity series for about how many years now? 4 or 5 years you were in the Xfinity series?
I think 4 full time.
4 full time, and we don't see that that often, though. And this is kind of a question I've wanted to ask you since Cass told me you wanted to be on the show and whatnot. We don't really see a lot of young guns like you stick with a team for years in their younger part of the career, especially through the Xfinity series into the Cup series. And I think that speaks more about how colleague is as well. This is a team that obviously is still, in my definition, still a new team. It's still a new team into the sport of NASCAR. When I was growing up, growing up, I'm saying growing up, and I feel like I'm an old person now just by saying that. But when I started watching Colleague, that when Blake Cook was in the 11 car, and I know Blake personally, and he's a really great guy, and I was pulling for him in that 11 car. And then I think Ryan Truex took the 11 over, and then it was your turn in the 11, and you were there for quite some time. And when we see a lot of Xfinity drivers, they'll be in the Xfinity series for maybe a year or two, and then they're kind of like, okay, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to go somewhere else, and I'm ready to move up and whatnot. But we didn't see that from you, though. We saw you stick with Colleague there in the Xfinity series, and now you're the man in the Cup series driving the 31 machine. So I kind of wanted to ask you, and Kaz, you're more than welcome to follow up on this because you definitely have some experience with Colleague as well. What's the environment like at Colleague? Because we hear nothing but great things about this team and how they work together as a family. Chris Rice over there, Matt Colleague, and it's just some amazing people over there. So tell us what it's like driving for Colleague Racing.
Yeah, well, as a young driver, the dream is just to, sign your contract and have it go for, as long as your career runs out. And, as long as it's a team like Colleague, a competitive team, there's no reason to ever leave. Right. And things are always good. So, I was lucky enough to have Chris Rice look into me when I was truck racing and get to know Chris and Matt, and then, sign my first contract was 2 years, and then did an extension off of that, and then another extension, and then signed the Cup contract. So I think for me, it's just I think it took some time. When I first came to Colleague Racing, it's so crazy. I tell people this: it was a one-car Xfinity team. My first year at Colleague was a one-car Xfinity team, and we drove or had a second car every once in a while, but it was just me. And now we have 5 teams, and it's just the new faces in the shop, right? I mean, it's just, I don't even know everyone's name because it's almost impossible now. I mean, we have two completely huge shops, and we have all kinds of parts and pieces going. And for me, that's cool to see the growth and the dedication of Matt Colleague, his companies, his sponsors, and what he does for the sport. I know he does a lot of charity work and partnered with NASCAR. And, he just doesn't show up every weekend and just own a team. I mean, he's actually invested. He loves coming to the races every weekend. I love seeing him every weekend. I mean, he still lives in Ohio. He'll fly down and have lunch with us randomly. So being with Colleague, having a guy like AJ Allmendinger, who's been, an anchor at Colleague Racing. I mean, he's been there since I have. So it's been cool. We've had a lot of good drivers come and go, like Ross, and Jeb and Kaz, but no, I mean, it's been fun, and honestly, things are going well enough that I would love to stay there for another 5 years or however long it goes. So it's been fun. It's fun now to watch the Xfinity guys and hear their comments, because I was in their position for so long, and having Daniel Hemrick come in, the past champion. Landon Castle has done a phenomenal job learning these cars, and obviously AJ is the GOAT, right? I mean, he's just the guy that you're always going to look up to, and he started the season on fire. So it's definitely been cool, and couldn't be happier to be a part of the organization.
Yeah, Kaz, and just following up from Justin, you definitely had some great rides of Colleague as well. Kind of talking about how a new team like this kind of doesn't necessarily come out of nowhere, but kind of went from that, like Justin said, that one car Xfinity team that was just always kind of there, kind of like that underdog kind of story, now seems to be like a threat every year to win an Xfinity title. And maybe, who knows, this year or maybe next year, Justin could be a favorite to win the Cup title. They may have the speed every single week.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
You never know though. You
Takes
never
a lot
know.
to be a Cup champion, but
you never know.
It's always the goal, right?
It's always the goal, but
listen, let's just have Justin start by beating my best finish for Colleague's Cup team. We're just waiting on that still, so I'm sure it'll come soon.
Isn't it?
Takes a lot.
6th place, right? I think 6 at Talladega. Yeah. But
what am I at, 11th from Atlanta?
Yeah, I think 11 was your best, and we're gonna talk about that in a second too, about your season so far. But I will mention though, Kaz, you may have the best finish out of YouTube, but the best finish from anyone in Colleague in the Cup Series is the GOAT himself, Allmendinger, who won the Indy Road Course last year, that was a pretty intense race. And I guess I'll ask you this too. I've always wanted to ask you this, Justin. The bond between you and AJ, it's pretty cool. You guys seem to be great friends. You guys joke around calling each other son and dad and everything. We hear it on the radio and everything all the time, joking around post-race, pre-race. What's it like having someone like AJ Allmendinger, who not only was in the Cup Series for a long time, but with that overall experience and kind of the head of the team now? What kind of advice does he give you, and how does it help you as a driver improve over the course of your career?
Yeah, he's just been great to me as a mentor away from the track. I think we share a lot of similar personality traits. I mean, he like golfs like 20 holes a day, which
Really?
I definitely don't golf. But so like away from the track, we're we got our own separate hobbies and things like that. And obviously he has a lot more going on, and he runs the Xfinity series. So we haven't been quite connected there, but I think having a teammate like that you always can rely on and just trust that he is going to tell you true information when you're at the racetrack always helps. I think me and AJ have such different driving styles that we really can't relate. But when he came to our Xfinity program full time, it elevated us so much because he just gave such different feedback than we could be saying the same thing, but saying it differently. And maybe what he said would light switch to one of our engineers or things like that and make it click. So AJ has been phenomenal in that sense. I know last year, like at per se Bristol or Michigan, I had a better car than him all night at Bristol. I mean, he was a 7th place car, but the ability AJ has to take that 7th to 10th place car and put himself in position week after week to win it's just crazy to be his teammate because, I know what I'm fighting. It's very similar to what he's fighting some weeks. And some weeks we have the dominant cars. We go to Mid-Ohio, finish 1-2 or places like that where he was really good at Vegas and Atlanta and things like that. He maximizes what the car is going to give him and more. So been really cool there. And then off track, we all have a great bond, me, Matt, Chris, and AJ. And now Daniel is starting to come in and land in it. The new guys always, feel like it's their first day at school, but it's something you can't replace and you really can't make up. I mean, it's true. And I watch all the Xfinity races and listen to AJ, and then AJ is always on my radio on Sundays, listening to me and texting me how I can be better or worse. So it's just been cool to have a guy that I can relate with. I mean, early in his career, he was just thrown in to Red Bull. And I think like his first NASCAR start was like, or first or second NASCAR start was a Cup start. I mean, I don't think he ran anything. Like he went straight to Cup.
I think you're right.
So,
yeah.
He was thrown into it. And, I've been more very, very gradual, but we just share a lot of the same personalities and how we carry ourselves. So been cool to kind of open each other up too and help each other. And I think we've helped each other, with the simple things that we struggle with, like doing media and things like that, where we're always so closed off. Our personalities are. So no, it's been good.
It's awesome. It's awesome to hear because I think within the sport of NASCAR, teamwork and bonding together as a team is what really makes teams succeed to a whole new level. And I think that's why we're seeing Colleague really starting to take that form of a team that can go out and win any single week in the Xfinity Series, let alone championships, and maybe one day soon Cup Series. Not trying to get ahead of myself, but I'm just saying one day we'll see that happen on the Cup side, I think. But you guys have such a great bond, and not only do I see it, but I think everyone who's watching the show and in the media side, Twitter, they see it though. They see the clips and see how you guys bond together as a team, and let alone we've seen in past history in the history of sports that teams that bond well together and are friends on and off the track are going to succeed on the track together because they want to see each other succeed at the end of the day. And speaking of succeeding, which I would hope is going to happen later on this season for you, let's kind of break down your season so far because I know it hasn't been the best of starts for you and whatnot. The Clash, for example, I believe in Auto Club, you were up there fighting for a top 10, I think, until you hit the inside wall on the front straightaway, which that's a hard place to hit. And then especially at Atlanta, we talked about before we went live here, that you were in position for, once again, a top 10 in Atlanta, and then you got caught up in that last lap incident. So kind of break down for us how your season's been so far and just kind of the challenges it is as a young driver like yourself in the Cup Series as a rookie, trying to make the best of the best with a brand new car and a stout field of competition?
Yeah, it's just, for me, the season, I think at LA, right? I think if we go run, mid-pack at LA, we wouldn't have had the momentum or drive that we did anywhere else. I think what we did at LA, what we accomplished, was something that none of us knew we were capable of right away. I don't think any of us really knew what we were even doing. We just kind of went out there and were ourselves, and we ran good all day and had a good finish. And heck, I hope we go back to LA. I hope they pave that place every winter, because if we went to Daytona and LA every week, I would probably be a champion. But
You make it a points race by this point.
Yeah, then we go to Daytona. We had some issues. Auto Club, we had a good run, and it's just kind of been up and down. I think we've kind of found where we belong and what we can do to fix, maybe what's not perfect. And there's a lot of things I can do to be better. And the information now, it's not so much, you just jump in the car and go. Like, we don't have any practice. So, I have a new crew chief this year I've never worked with, Trent Owens, and having the feedback between us and things to change. I mean, it's hard. We have 20 minutes of practice. I mean, we have like one change. You can't even jack up the car and put it on 4 jack stands. So it makes simulator time more important than ever, and things like that. But I read somewhere yesterday that I've like completed the 5th most laps out of anyone, which I feel like I've wrecked every week. But I said it's the perk of wrecking on the last lap, because you finish the races. So no, we've had some good runs, and there's a lot of things I need to clean up to be a better driver. But I think a lot of it I can go back on from what I did last year with Spire. And even though we kind of knew our position last year, and we knew what we were doing and our expectations, and we were where we were, it helped me physically and mentally get prepared for these longer races. Like this weekend, the race was so long. I mean, it was twice as long lap wise, even more than the Xfinity race. So just having those miles on my body, and it's just something you can't train. I mean, you can train for it, but just the mental capacity it takes to run a 5.5 hour race, super speedway style, is just something you can't learn. So even though we didn't have the best season last year in Cup, it was still so crucial to just be able to go out there and just run those laps. And like I said, seat time, everyone does it these days. You got Kyle Busch flying to Illinois Saturday night after Atlanta practice and racing, and William Byron flew back to Hickory and ran the Easter Bunny 150 or something and won it Saturday night. So I know next week I'm going to Bristol, and I'm racing Monday through Friday in my modified, and then flying to Richmond, practicing, flying back to Bristol, racing, flying back to Richmond and racing the Cup race. So you see it more and more. And I think Kyle Larson has really set the standard for all of us. I mean, he goes out there and does what he does, and can hop in anything and just does it every week. I mean, the guy runs 100+ nights a year. So he's definitely elevated the bar, kind of like what Jimmy did, right? When Jimmy came in, he elevated the bar for all of them back then with training and triathlons and stuff like that. So now you got, a different version of that, where we all have to train and work as hard as possible off the track, but we have to be on the track all the time now.
I feel like everyone saw what Kyle did last year, and they're like, I'll have what he's having. I need to go out here and run every race I possibly can and learn how to drive anything different and put it into this Cup car. Because like you mentioned, William Byron, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, you're going to be doing this too, be going all over the place driving in the next couple of weeks too. I'm sure a lot of people are starting to do that now. We're seeing that. I mean, seat time is really, really important. I know for Coda coming up this week, there's some Cup guys that are driving in the I think it's the trucks and Xfinity race. I think waving his hand, Kaz over here. He's going to be in the truck race in that O2 machine. And I may or may not put him on DraftKings. We'll see what happens.
I got one thing to add is racing that much is almost unrealistic, right? There's so many things that have to align, right? I mean, you have to fly private, which is so expensive, right? Mm-hmm. Then you just have to have the funding to be able to go out and race that much, and you have to have good car owners and good sponsors, and you have to have you know, for me, Chris Rice and Matt Collig and my contract say it's okay for me to go race this and get written approval for every race. So it's not as easy. You know, some fans might think it's just, hey, we just show up to a racetrack, bring our helmet and jump in. There's so much planning and sponsorship dollars. And that's why a lot of us really struggle to do it every week and don't do it, is because we already have enough on our plates. And then you go add that. And it's just so much more. So hats off to Larson. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how his body does it. For me, I run a cup race and I'm sore for the next week, and I train all week and get massages and chiropractors and try to get back right for the next 500-mile race. I guess his massage is just getting in a sprint car and going.
Do you guys get professional, like after the races and all that? Do you guys have like professional massages done for you guys after these races? I really need to know what the post-race treatment is for these 500-mile races. Like, cause you're talking about how your stomach's going to the other side of the United States over here during the race. Like you guys get the treatments when you're done?
Yeah. And right after she gets done with me, she goes over to Justin. Our girl Renee gets this up every week. Yeah, and it sounds ridiculous, right? I mean, a lot of people don't get massages very often, and I mean, heck, a lot of guys at my age have never gotten a massage. But
they're missing out.
It's funny that type of stuff actually makes a big difference for us.
And I can promise you, it's not a massage, a candlelit massage that is relaxing in any way.
No,
I mean,
man, deep tissue all the way, the way.
Yeah. It needs to be a soundproofed room that I'm in. I'm getting massage for.
Just you know, it's almost, you know, people just think we sit in a race car all day and it is what it is. But it's almost bad that we sit down, because we develop so many tendencies and our muscles, you know, start going one direction, turning the wheel, and we just sit there and we just get stiff. I mean, we just don't move, and it's almost worse on our bodies because of how little movement there is. And the movement we are doing is so repetitive that it just, you know, your muscles get bad habits and you get stuck in certain positions that you have to get out of. So like Cass said, we both see the same massage therapist, and this same one goes to a lot of different racers like Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon and a bunch of Xfinity guys. So she knows our bodies and what we need each week, and she can kind of reverse all those bad habits that we create inside the car.
I'd say you guys got deep tissue. Tyler had the leg treatment for about 2-3 weeks there earlier this season. I was just talking to him actually in the garage on Saturday, and I told him, all right, are the legs good? He goes, yeah, it's all good now. Thank goodness it's all good now and everything. But you know, speaking of, I got, okay, real quick. I was going to ask you guys this earlier. Are you guys for 500-mile races or less than 500 miles at Atlanta? What's your quick intake on that? 500 miles or less than 500 miles?
I will say I have always been for shorter races. That's just the dirt racing in me, right? We show up, we do 25 laps, we go home. So for me, racing on Sundays has always been about long races. But personally, for me, I want a short race every week. I think it's more exciting. You show up, the race is good and goes, and then it's over. But obviously that's never going to happen. But you know, I just think I've always enjoyed it. I think Atlanta probably can be a 400-mile race, and no one could tell a difference. But I'd be curious to see what Kaz thinks.
Yeah, I'd say 400-mile race. I'm a huge fan of long races when there's tire wear. I think that's fun. It helps separate, you know, the cream of the crop there, because you have to manage the race so much differently. But yeah, obviously a weekend like this, super mentally taxing, looked extremely physically taxing with the load that you guys had. No tire wear, you know, you're all racing side drive.
Yeah.
And on each other for 5 hours. Like, could you cut 100 miles off that? Yeah, I'd say so. And frankly, some of the restrictor plate races, you see the action pick up at the end. So if you shorten it by 100 miles, that action's just going to pick up sooner because you're going to get to the end sooner. So I'm good.
But also, like, the Daytona 500 is perfect length, right? I think the Daytona 500 is perfect length, and so that's what, you know, it's confusing to me. Like, why did I think that race was so long? And also, I mean, Yeah. I mean, we were just racing to our fuel window, right? We were just good till we were good on gas and fuel, and we were racing to our fuel window. And once we got to our fuel window, the pit crew guys started packing up the pit box, and that was it. So, old Atlanta, we were 30 lap runs, and then you come throw a set of tires on it, and you do 30 more laps and throw a set of tires on it. And it was always evolving, and it didn't get, it was just stale. It almost got stale. So, I think 400 miles could be beneficial, really. But no, either way, we'll see.
See, I'm the one over here. You guys are talking about, this certain position, back massages. I'm over here doing a Coke 600 on my iRacing thing in this chair, and I got lower back pain for 2 days after just by doing 600 miles on that. So I can't even imagine what you guys are doing over there, sitting in an actual stock car going for 500 miles on Atlanta Motor Speedway. Because listen, I've been going to this race since I was a kid, and listen, the only reason why I'm anti 500 miles is because I got the worst sunburn you could possibly ever imagine behind my hat right now. We're not showing it on camera right now. That sun and windburn got me so bad. And if it was 400 miles, it wouldn't have been as bad. I've only able to put 2 coats of aloe on, not 4. But, but that's just me. That's just me. But, I agree with y'all with the 500 miles. I think for a trial limb or a speedway where it's a mile and a half, you think, oh, a mile and a half plate racing. It's going to go by quick. No, it did not. That race was, I think, 4.5 hours long, close to 5. If we had maybe even one red flag, the sun would have been down. We would have had some night racing there, which, not going to lie, I was looking forward to that. I wanted to see some night racing there at Atlanta Motor Speedway. But
your sunburn, I'm sure, was looking forward to it.
Oh, it was. As soon as I felt the heat get away from my body, I was like, finally, I am at peace now, and I can watch this race at ease right now. But yeah, I like what you guys are mentioning about the 500 miles. I think for a trial or speedway, I think 400 is the perfect amount, really, for any mile and a half besides the Coke 600. That is tradition. Yep. That deserves the 600 miles right there. I think Atlanta should be a 400-mile track. Plus, I think that would make fans want to even be engaged more into that race too. It's not as long as the 500. We saw what kind of action we saw with 500. What's it going to be like with 400 miles? We'll find out in July for the Quaker State 400, which I will definitely be there for that one as well. But moving on from Atlanta, guys, as we head to near the end of the show here, which has been a really fun episode so far, we're going to kind of break down here COTA, which we both have. Of course, Kaz and Justin will be seeing some action at COTA this week. I'll be sitting here watching from my good old home on the TV, watching, supporting the two guys right here. But kind of breaking down COTA here, Justin, Kaz, this is a newer track on the NASCAR circuit, right? We just saw it for the first time last year. Lots of craziness, lots of rain racing there. But hopefully this time around, the weather will play into our hands a lot better, so you guys don't have to worry about slamming into each other's cars down a long straightaway. Kaz, we'll start with you here, since you'll be going first here in the truck series. Kind of tell us what it's like to drive at a track like COTA, and how excited are you for this race?
I love COTA, and I'm pumped. I've got like a million miles of racing ahead of me this weekend, that's going to be a daunting task in itself for me, both physically and mentally, because you got one car that's got wide tires, independent rear suspension, and a sequential shifter, and you got
5 gears.
And 5 gears. And then I got the other one, H pattern, 4 gears, truck arms, wheel hop, skinny tires. So it's going to be a big transition between the two. I'm just hoping I don't money shift one of them by mistake. But yeah, I saw the entry list that came out for the trucks. I was a little disappointed because last year I was the resident veteran in the truck race, and we were able to get Young's Motorsports up front and God, darn near win that race and outrun a lot of the powerhouse teams, which was huge for us, for Young's Motorsports. So really cool. Oh, this year we're gonna have to deal with Kyle Busch in the 51, and now Bowman in Aspire trucks. So I don't think I'm the veteran anymore for this year, but I'm hoping that we can get up front again. And I feel like we're gonna have a good truck. We're gonna have a good shot at it. So if we play our cards right, we might be able to go grab us a trophy. So feel great about Saturday. That's going to be a lot of fun, hopefully up front. And it's always fun going into a weekend when you know that you've got a shot at it, and you're going to be up for the win. So should be a fun Saturday. And then Sunday, I don't know what to expect. We haven't seen a next gen race yet on a road course. We've tested them. I did the Charlotte Roval test in October for the next gen cars. So kind of know what it's going to feel like, but Justin, I don't know if you looked at it. So I paid attention to the Cup entry list for this weekend. It's really strong. Like everyone's good. Even the cars that are, your lower funded teams like a Rick Ware Racing or a Live Fast. I mean, we got like Andy Lally and Joey Hand and Boris Said in these cars, like literally.
What, Boris is racing?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah, everyone's good. Like there's not a single slouch in the field. So, I look at it and go like, yeah, I hope we can go run like top 25, top 20. Well, now looking at the list, I'm like, shoot, everyone's good. Like if I outrun one car, then we probably did something pretty impressive. So it's going to be one of those types of weekends. And, we don't know what to expect. We've seen a lot of attrition with the next gen races so far in ovals, but I don't know that we're going to see that on a road course. We may not at all. Like we may have all 38, I think there are, cars running at the end of the race all bunched up. Like you may truly have to dice your way up forward. So it's going to be a daunting task this weekend, but I'm thrilled about it. I got 2 shots at a good race. The Money Team Racing back on track in our bright freaking paint scheme that you're not going to miss. So it's going to be a good weekend.
Moving to you, Justin, about this. I mean, we know your season so far has been up and down. You got some cars that have been torn up and everything, but you have some road course experience. You've had some success. You won at Canadian Tire, a very historic race that day. For anyone that does not remember that finish, go look it up. Quite the finish right there. You were driving for GMS at that time, right? GMS.
Yeah. And I will say the Truck Series does owe Kaz Gralla a road course win. And last year, he drove that Young's Motorsports truck. For me, it didn't even have the updated Chevy nose on it. It was an old Chevy truck. Like it was outdated. And he still finished second and took a lot of the big teams. So that was cool to see. And it was raining and stuff like that. But and Kaz is a feature winner at a Coda and in whatever kind of car you were driving for RCR. I don't know what that thing was.
Yeah,
but
we spanked him out there in December.
Yeah,
wasn't it Fury? It wasn't the Fury cars, was it?
That one wasn't. No, I've raced a Fury car there before. No,
okay.
This December we raced an RCR built car.
That's right.
We laid the wood to them. We had like 95 cars in that race. We won both of them. Pole for both of them. Won both of them by like 2 laps. We just absolutely spanked him.
I remember checking up on that race, and I looked at the ticker, the leaderboard, and I was like, "Holy crap!" I'm like, they're just laying down the hammer. It's like Kyle Busch in the Truck Series. Like they're just going crazy.
Well, and we felt extra like big headed about it too, because we're out there, we're racing like Porsches and Audis and Aston Martins and Mercedes, and like we'll follow them. Than us, they'll roll the center faster than us. Like their cars were better. We're in a clunky stock car. If we were driving their cars, we'd be going faster in their cars than we were going in our car. But we just straight up outraced them, outdrove them, like didn't make any mistakes. It was so much fun. So yeah, if we can drive a race like that this weekend, then I could definitely be in victory lane in a truck. But you're gonna have to run that perfect race to do it.
I'm looking forward to possibly seeing that. But Justin, talking to you about Coda here, obviously you're going to be here in the 31 car here and whatnot. Tell me what you're thinking about heading into Coda.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one to start.
I will say I tested at the Roval the second day, 2-day test. AJ had the first day. And, when AJ Allmendinger drives the same car as you, at a road course, he was just faster, and I could not drive that car any faster. I mean, I felt like I maximized the laps, and I was still second slower than him. So what Kaz said about the Cup Series has so many good drivers, and that's why it's the Cup Series, right? The best of the best enter each and every week. And I don't know about myself, but the majority of the field is the best of the best, and then you got guys like me. Who just try to hang on and I wouldn't say I'm the best road course racer ever, but I understand the concept of it, and I've had some decent Trans Am success, and I feel like I always ran good in an Xfinity car at road courses. Always felt like I finished second to either Cindric or AJ, which are 2 guys that are just phenomenal. So it's gonna be hard. I think there's gonna be a lot of fast cars. I mean, obviously you have like Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott, who have won a bunch. But then you have like Austin Cindric, who has been unreal this year, and you just know he's going to be fast, right? And then you got AJ in the 16, and you got Kaz Gralla and,
Oh
and
yeah.
the money team entry. So I mean, it's just there's not a car. You know, I don't even know or who the top 10 would be this weekend is. Yeah, it's anyone's guess.
It's
I
up
mean,
in the air.
yeah, you have Ross Chastain. I mean, he's finished second, third. And, you know, I would say he's a pretty good road course racer. I mean, I was teammates with him and he always got the job done. So, yeah, I mean, if you have a fantasy league this week, good luck because I wouldn't even know where to start.
Might as well close your eyes and just throw something at a dart, or throw a dart and just guess at this point.
One thing I do feel confident about this weekend, though, and I'm curious, Justin, if you feel the same way. I'm mentally preparing myself for the most physical race of my life. That's what I'm expecting, because from that Roval test, I mean, these things have fat tires, really good brakes, independent rear suspension. They will take all of the abuse that you will give them. And for a driver, that just means you are going to be worn out, because there's no like modulating the brake and managing wheel hop and eggshelling on the throttle. No, it is just like full bore, everything you got with your left leg on the brake, sling that thing into the corner hard, everything you got with the throttle, and it's just taking it. So
everything reacts faster. And I was worn out after the Charlotte Roval test. In fact, I just got done with the Chevy Sim preparing for Circuit of the Americas, and I had a 2.5 hour slot, which, you know, give or take should probably be hopefully about the time the race length is. I mean, maybe a little shorter, maybe a little longer, but man, by the end of my time, my brain was just fried. I mean, I couldn't handle making a lap at the end of the 2.5 hour mark because everything is happening so much faster. I would say lap times are probably going to be 5 or 6 seconds faster than they were with the previous car.
Really?
And that is a lot. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but it just takes so much out of you because they're still heavy. I mean, an Indy car or something like that, I mean, you really got to sling it around the track, and it's got good downforce. It has, wings and stuff on it. These things are heavy, but they've got grip, and you're fighting it the whole time. So be curious to see how soft the tires are, tire wear. Thankfully, it's not going to rain. Let's just get one road course underneath us before it starts downpouring. I mean, I know me and Kaz would be cool with the rain. I mean, it might help us, but I just want one road course race just to get the base down, see what we're working with, and then we go to these other racetracks and carry on. But yeah, I'm expecting a lot of physical and mental, just like this weekend. And for me, I think about the guys that are running double duty, like AJ and Kaz. I mean, for me, in the past, Xfinity and Cup, it was pretty much the same thing, right? I mean, you get in one car goes a little faster. I mean, the Cup cars usually drove a little better with no ride height. Now, completely different brakes. You got the underbody, you got the diffuser. I mean, you got 5 gears. I mean, I can't even imagine jumping back and forth, and brake markers are going to be so different. So to me, hats off to Kaz for taking that on. I mean, I know you're a hot topic in the garage at road courses, but that's a lot. That's a lot to remember. And especially with these shorter practices, just jumping in one car to the next and just going out there and qualifying. It's going to be a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot. I'm going to have to hydrate a lot. I mean, look, the truck race 40 laps, 42 or 44. The space, I think, is 46 laps. They're like not that different. So Cup, all right, what do you think? Like 50, 55? No, 68 laps for the Cup race. It's like 60% longer than the truck and the Xfinity races. And I'm going to be in the truck race and the Xfinity race, and Alpha Prime Racing actually asked me to spot for them this weekend. I had to say no because I'm like, well, first off, I've already wrecked enough of their cars from inside the car. I don't need to wreck another one.
It wasn't your fault, though. It wasn't your fault.
On the radio. But no, I'm like, I can't take that on this weekend with everything that I'm going to need to be doing, debriefing, and really going to have to take notes and go over my notes before I sit in each car just to make sure, like Justin said, the brake markers, like I need to make sure I hop in and I remember where I'm at and where I'm supposed to brake. Like I'm going to practice and qualify the Cup car Saturday morning, and then hop in the truck and take the green flag. I can't go break into turn 1 or down the backstretch where I was breaking in the cup car, or we're going to be getting towed off on lap 1 just as quickly as we started. So yeah, it's going to be a lot this weekend. I'm curious to see how I'm going to be able to manage it. But yeah, in that Charlotte Roval test, I don't think I did more than 5 laps in a row at a time. And the reason, because I would finish that 5th lap and I would just come to the pits. I'm like, yeah, all right, let's work on it.
You know, that's a good,
done.
I should spot for AJ in the Xfinity race. I should text Chris and ask if I can like spot like, you know, some nonsense turn. That would be good bonding, right? I mean, I've never spotted anything in my life, but that's a good idea. I wonder if I'd get paid.
I would pay just to listen to that, honestly, and just hear what kind of the interactions would be. I'm about to say, if Alpha Prime needs a spot and you turn it down, that spot's still open, Kaz. I'll take it. I mean, I've always wanted to go to Texas and check this track out. By all means necessary. I play a mean iRacing spotter. All right, I'm not gonna lie.
I think Justin needs to go find a spot on the fence on the backstretch and spot AJ. No corner.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna spot a corner. No, just as he comes by briefly on that.
Hey, the Cup guys
Speedway,
needed
each
that
lap.
last year. Don't hate on the backstretch. The Cup guys would have wished they had that last year.
Oh man,
That's true. That's true.
It's raining. It's raining. Car.
Yeah. This year you can just tell him, yep, keep going.
I'll just stand on top of the big tower thing. I wonder if they'll let me up there.
If you're not afraid of heights, I think you'll be okay. That thing looks like you're about to go down a huge roller coaster. at that point. But I love you guys previewing COTA like that. And I mean, is this gonna be more wear and tear for you guys in a 500-mile race at Atlanta? Like what's gonna wear you out more? 500 miles at Atlanta with your stomach going to the other side of the United States, or taking left and right turns at COTA?
I'll let you know Monday. I'm honestly not sure. It's going to be hot in Texas. I mean, it's like 86 degrees. I remember the Xfinity race there last year. It was just daytime, middle of the day, just so hot. And we stayed out on old tires and the car drove like not good. And I was just so physically exhausted, but I had to turn myself around for the Cup race. And then it was raining the next day. So, you know, I think they're probably both similar, but for different reasons.
Yeah, I'd say COTA, any road course for that matter, will be more physical than any oval, but I can't speak to Atlanta specifically since that's a new one and I wasn't out there. But sounds like that one was very, very physical. But yeah, I would put COTA up against probably any other track on the schedule, any other oval. I'd say it's going to be more difficult than, you know, Bristol and Martinsville are challenging for their reasons, but yeah, it's gonna be a brutal one. So I think you'll see, honestly, my prediction for this weekend, I think you're gonna see some guys fall out of it a little bit in the third stage, whether that's mentally or physically. I think you're gonna see more mistakes late in the race. So I'm just hoping not to be one of those guys. Maybe I can be one that can take advantage of one of those guys. So we'll see.
I'm about to say, don't jinx yourself, Justin. Don't fall off. Don't fall off in that third stage. Otherwise, Cash jinxed you big time right there.
I only got one race this week, and I'm used to racing double duty like I did last year. So it's actually been like easier for me this year, not doing 2 races. My body's in much better shape, not doing twice length races.
Well, I'd say you're not doing as much. You used to be doing. You did double duty all the time. I think
Yeah,
like you and Chastain like love racing 24/7, no matter what it is. If it's got 4 wheels, you're in it that weekend and whatnot. Do you miss the Xfinity Series? Do you miss race? I know it was your home for quite a long time now. Has it kind of taken you some time to kind of get used to like not being a part of that anymore and just focusing all on Cup?
Miss it a little bit, but these next gen cars are so much fun to drive. I think people don't understand how awesome these cars are. I mean, you know, at Daytona, I had tested the next gen car and tested. We went to LA and the cars are so different, but it was the new normal to me. So I went over to the Xfinity garage. I'm like, what are these things? I mean, the tires are like huge and the windshields are ginormous and it looks like a school bus and everything's so simple. I was like, what? Have they always been like this? And they're like, yeah, same thing you ran. It's just your perspective changes so quickly. So, you know, I thought I would miss the Xfinity Series a little more than I did, but the races have been so long. We've been talking about long races. I mean, it seems like there's a red flag at the end of each one, every single race. So
at the very least,
I miss racing with those guys and cutting it up with AJ, but I don't miss the carnage that sometimes unfolded.
Dang. You trashing on your old series, man. I mean, you're over here saying,
no.
"What is this? What is this?"
Yeah,
listen,
it's the same thing like racing trucks, right? As a fan, trucks are awesome because they're like 6 or 7 wide.
Yeah.
And then you're 6 or 7 wide racing the truck, and you're like, oh gosh, like I don't want to be in this position. So it's just kind of like that, right? It's awesome to watch as a fan, but sometimes you get stuck in a lot of positions that you don't want to be in, and that's just experience, right? I feel like a lot of the Cup guys, maybe beginning to middle of that race aren't going to take those chances, but as soon as the green flag drops on a truck or Xfinity race, I mean, it is like lights out.
Yeah, I for one hope someday to be racing full time in Cup, so that I can sit back on Fridays and Saturdays and enjoy turning on the TV and watching the truck and Xfinity races, because that's the worst part about being in them, is that you don't get to watch them. That's the only sad part. And I love watching those races. And as Justin said, they're a lot better to watch than to be in. They're pretty hairy to be in. So the Cup races are usually they're harder to race, but you fear a little bit less for your life most of the time, except for this past weekend, I suppose.
Well, I think we can both vouch. We hope you get into the Cup Series full time very, very soon, because I want to see you two duking it out down the road. I can only imagine the beef you two would have, the friendly beef you guys would have some of those weekends going full time in Cup Series.
We
will this weekend. I mean, this will be. Hey, what's your best finish at a road course? The 7th, right, in the Cup Series?
Yeah.
Yeah, so is mine in a Spire car at Indy. So, I mean, we got some beef to settle there. So I guess this weekend's the tiebreaker.
I'll give you the win on that one, though, because it was a Spire car. Mine was an RCR car.
But it was at Indy.
Yeah.
So
a little attrition. All right, we'll call it even on that. But yeah, Justin and I, we were teammates in 2017 in the Truck Series. We actually went into here. A lot of people don't know this. They maybe know we're friends. We've been close friends for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
We hated each other in what was
story. Now, I don't hate a lot of people, but I hated Daniel.
Yeah. I didn't know this.
Yeah. Not a lot of people.
We had a lot of
but he hated me and I hated him back. We used to race against each other in K&N East, which
when we were like 13, 14.
Yeah. We were just little toddlers, and we were racing side by side on like lap 4 at Langley Speedway, racing for 3rd place. Justin was on my outside, and it happens to all of us. We'll own up to it. Justin ran out of talent.
Yeah,
ran out of talent. And NASCAR penalizes me for aggressive driving. I didn't even know that was a thing. I still don't.
And he acts like it was my fault. Like I'm not in the tower making these calls.
No, that wasn't your fault.
He just hated me for running out of talent, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, so NASCAR holds me for a lap, puts me a lap down in the race. And then along with that penalty comes your call to the NASCAR hauler after the race. So me and old Chris Wright had to have a conversation post-race about whatever I did. And so from that moment on, Justin and I were absolute rivals. We end up teammates at GMS. We're both pissed about it. We race the crap out of each other for like the first 6 races of the year. Like we would race each other so hard that we would collectively cause ourselves to lose like 3 other positions from other people.
I'm going to go back and watch these
never
races.
wreck, though.
I am going to go back and watch.
Yeah, we never wrecked each other, but it was sort of like you'd be on a mile and a half, and as teammates, you're not supposed to do this, but we would just be like sucking on each other's right rears, side drafting each other, like killing ourselves. Other people are going around us, but we were so caught up in racing each other that actually my crew chief ended up sitting me down after one of the races, and he's like, dude, you gotta go out to dinner with that kid or something, like clear the air, just move past it so that we can have a good year. You're not going to wreck each other's years. So I reluctantly ended up hanging out with Justin once, and we went out on his boat.
That was such a terrible experience. My crew chief at the time was completely different. He probably wanted conflict. So Kevin was Spencer Gallagher, I think, is what really brought us close together.
Yeah. Oh yeah, bonding over Spencer for sure. The sim at GMS. But anyway, long story short, we ended up best friends way back when, and we have been since. So we'll be able to duke it out on Sunday a little bit. Oh well, I mean, hey, I'm racing for a new team this weekend, so I shouldn't be seeing you out there. You should be a lot better.
The excuses are already starting.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. If I do pass you, you're gonna see two fingers out the left side window of my car.
He's doing this intentionally, though. He's doing this because he wants you to at least expect it when he's going to pass you. And when you see that bright Pit Viper car or whatever the sponsor is passes you, it's going to make your eyes grow like you're a deer in the highway looking at a car coming right at you.
Well, you're going to see a bright flash in your mirror and just smoke billowing out from front tire lock up before you get ramrodded on that stretch.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know all that. Like, I knew you guys were friends, but I didn't know about that drama. Now I want to go back and watch, because you won at Daytona that year, right? That was 2017, was it not?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you won in there, and then was that the same year?
And Justin didn't turn 18 for like another month, so he wasn't in that race.
I didn't race.
So I can imagine back then Justin was probably watching. Yeah, Justin was probably watching that race, fuming that I won due to our hate.
So I think Kaz has a lot more hate in his heart than I did. I mean, I think I was. It sounds like it, because I didn't even know he got called in NASCAR. I was just like, okay, cool. So. But anyway, so that's a long story. Story for another time, I guess.
We might have to bring you back another episode to kind of dive down this little saga between you and Kaz.
Special episode. A
special 20-minute episode that you have to unlock the rivalry between Justin Haley and Kaz Gralla, the one we always have wanted. That is crazy. I'm glad you guys told me that. That's insane. I did not know about anything of that, of any sort. That's crazy. But
we'll make that episode premium for our
yes, a premium episode where Justin Haley and Cass talk about their internal problems. Yes, with each other.
Joey will throw it up on his OnlyFans. We'll get some subscribers.
No, I'm not doing that. No, I get judged all the time. They're making OnlyFans and put custom setups on there and all that stuff. No, we're not falling to that level. We're not doing that. You watch the show and you support. Speaking of support, Justin, thanks for coming on to the show today and supporting what Kaz and I are doing here. It's been so much fun having you on here. We'd love to have you back anytime you'd ever like to join us and whatnot. But best of luck in COTA, man. I hope you and Kaz can duke it out a little bit. You know, maybe we can get a nice TV shot of you and Kaz side by side battling for the race and everything. That'd be super cool.
Yeah, no, I appreciate y'all having me on. I just want to listen next week, and no matter what happens, I don't want to be, called out by Kaz for him beating me or anything. So no matter what happens on track this weekend, let's just forget about it and go on our way. So I appreciate it.
He's already scared. That means I did my job well here.
Oh man, he threw out his.
Is this what this was? It was just a plot. It was a plot.
Kaz, bail, Kaz, get out of here. No, but oh man, that's gonna be great. All right, real quick before we go here, Kaz, we always do this. Last week, I don't think any of us got the right pick, man. None of us got the right pick. Byron took the win, Atlanta. Real quick, Justin, you're more than welcome to kind of throw in too. Besides yourself, I know you want to see yourself win at COTA, but if you had to pick just one cup guy, you just close your eyes and think, I think he's going to grab the checker flag at COTA. Who do you think it would be?
Got to be AJ Allmendinger.
Allmendinger. All right. I like it. Indy road course winner last year. Got lots of experience at a track like this and road course racing. I like it, Cass. Who you got?
I'm going with the man himself, who's still probably picking pieces of my rear bumper out of his teeth, Austin Cindric.
Is there a story behind that? Oh, wait. Yep. Canadian.
Yeah.
Whoops. Well, that's another one. Okay, I forgot about that one for a second. Woo! Okay.
That'll be the next episode. The Kaz Gralla and Austin Cindric beef.
Yeah.
So should we get Austin on the show next time? Is what we're saying.
I think there's a common denominator here on who's got beef with who, though. So
I don't know. Right now, I think I'm probably the only other driver, maybe AJ, that likes you. So I think there's a common thread.
Yeah. And anyway.
But I guess for me, real quick, I'll go ahead and make my pick. I'll go with him. I know he won last year and everything, but I'll go with Chase. I think Chase may get it done. I know there's a couple Chase cars behind me. I know, but he is the points leader. He won here last year, rain shortened race, but maybe that final Hendrick car takes a dub. I love to see Austin Cindric though win. You honestly took my pick though. I was gonna pick Austin Cindric, and then I had to kind of go with Plan B, which was Chase Justin Haley.
Yeah.
Hey,
nobody picked us.
Hey,
We weren't
listen,
allowed to.
I mean, that was the thing. I mean, if I pick you on the show, that makes me kind of biased. I mean, listen,
Yeah,
Justin, if you win this race, dude, I mean, shoot, I'll need to have you back on next Tuesday to talk about it.
If I win this race, I probably won't be on anything for a while. I'll be celebrating heavily.
Hey, dude, I don't blame you one bit, man. I don't blame you one bit. But guys, we have reached the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to Justin Haley again for joining us today. Make sure to check out all the action this weekend as Kaz and Justin take left and right turns and possibly have their stomachs go the other way once again 2 weeks in a row, as Justin said earlier. But I'm Joey Stone, he's Kaz Gralla, and he is Justin Haley. Thank you so much for watching, and now you are all clear. See you guys next week.
Kaz Gralla is the winner, the youngest driver to win at Daytona in NASCAR National Touring Series history.
Joey Stone just picked up his first career win. Holy cow, what a finish.